Hello and welcome everybody. I didn't think I would ever do this, but I did get the Heidi Swap Minc machine. This is the mini version, which I think can foil up to 6 inches wide. And why did I get this? Well, part of it is to finally do a product review of it because I've heard a lot about it. Never really felt that I needed one because when I first got into foiling, it was too expensive for me. They didn't have the mini version. And so instead I picked up a laminator, an Amazon laminator for something like 15-20 bucks. And when that got to be frustrating for me and I wasn't able to really get the consistent results that I wanted, I dove right into hot foiling with the Glimmer and I haven't looked back. But recently, if you'll recall, I did a unboxing video showing the Crafty Critta goodies that I received, and even though it's going to work perfectly through the laminator, I saw this go on sale. It was one of the Prime Day deals and it was at a fairly reasonable price, and I thought, well, you know, maybe it's time to finally pick one up and give it a try for myself. So this is my first look at the Heidi Swap mini Minc machine. And if you don't know what this machine is all about, it will allow you to do transfer foiling, which is a different type of foiling to what your Glimmer machine will do for you, which is hot foiling. They operate on separate premise. The Minc machine works with a pressure and with a medium that will help the foil to actually adhere to your substrate. And hot foil relies on plates that, with sufficient heat and pressure, will actually push the hot foil into your substrate. And the two types of foils that you use, they're not necessarily interchangeable. So there's a little bit of a difference. And there's a big difference when it comes to the types of designs that you have access to, because with transfer foiling, if you have a laser printer, you can actually print out your own designs and use a laser printed panel as your design to foil, whereas with hot foil you need to get foiling plates. So there's a bit of an expense and of a different variety of designs. Namely, if you like to make your own, maybe you like to purchase your own clip art. So all of that's possible with something like the Minc. And what I thought I would do is, this will be my first look, so I've never used it before, so I'll go ahead and foil what they've supplied. And then what I thought I would do, in case anyone is curious, is I'm going to do a little bit of a side-by-side comparison between this and my laminator, just so that I can see firsthand for myself what the difference is. So let's, this does come with the machine. There's two printables. The paper feels very, very smooth. So this is printed with toner ink, and the toner is going to be the medium that becomes sticky and will grab onto the foil. And why is toner sticky? It's not when you touch it after it's been printed, but what happens is when you run this through the Minc, which will apply heat to it, this toner, which is essentially just plastic, is going to melt. And when it melts, it becomes sticky and grabby, and it's going to grab onto the foil. I don't know how many sheets of foil there are, but we get gold, 2 panels, and this is the carrier sheet that we're going to use to send this through. So that's what we get, plus we get the owner's manual. And what I'm going to do is I will read this through just to make sure. I think I get the gist of how to use this, but I still want to read everything through just so that I am sure not to miss anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read this off camera, and then I'll turn the camera back on and we'll do our first foiling. Okay, so I've read everything. It's as easy as I expected. So basically what I am going to do is I am going to turn it on. So there's a rocker switch on the back here. And so we'll have that turned on. And then the next thing that we want to do is once you get that switch, you do still need to hit the button in the center here to actually turn it on. So now you kind of see this button number lighting up. And so there's this scale of 0 to 5. And there's actually a guide on the back here that says, you know, what is appropriate best for the various different numbers here. So 0 is pressure or adhesive transfer, no heat required. 1 is for glassine bags, printed overlays. 2 is for lightweight coated paper, lightweight vellum, glossy stickers. 3 is for lightweight uncoated paper, heavyweight coated paper. 4 is for uncoated cardstock. It doesn't really say like what weight of cardstock, because not all cardstock. 65 is very different from 120. 5 is for chipboard. Oh, it could take chipboard. Toner reactive glitter sheets. So those are the various different settings, and I imagine this is going to adjust sort of the amount of pressure and heat that is required for each of those different types of materials. And the thing that I did not see, and it could be that I have just missed it, is I'm not sure what they would class what was provided in the box. So let me check the box real quickly on the outside, just seeing where it lists what all comes. And the shipping label actually might be covering it. So yeah, I don't know. If I had to guess, this would be maybe it feels coated because it is slick. I don't think this would be cardstock. I'm gonna try it at a 3. Somebody can tell me if I'm wrong. And I'm gonna just give it some time to heat up, but because I want it at a 3, I'm gonna just continue to cycle that until it's on 3 so that when it hits green, it will be ready for us to pass that through. And I will use the foil that did come with it. Although when I do my side-by-side comparison, I will probably use something that I have more of, like deco foil or the foil from Crafty Critta. I want to test with what I have before I use the Crafty Critta foil. So I'm just gonna use what I've got in my stash to start. And I think I was trying to look to see what they call it test projects, but I have not yet seen, and I could have just missed it. I'm sure somebody will leave me a comment if I'm just not seeing it. But I'm gonna aim for 3, and we'll just see how that goes. So we'll start with adventure, and I'll go ahead and put it like this. So all we need to do is cut some foil down so that it is the size that we need. And just be careful because this is sticky and foil sheets are pretty thin. So you might want to block your foil from getting adhering onto that sticky. Is it just one sheet? Oh, okay, it's 1 silver. Oh, it's only 1 silver and 1 gold. Okay, that's not a lot of sample foil. No problem. Okay, and all I'm gonna do is I will cut this down to size. I mean, there's not a lot left on this side of things, and it can probably be even smaller because it really just needs to cover the black printed area. So let's be conservative with our foil, and because that's still going to be plenty. All right, so next we want to, here's the carrier sheet, and so you just want to lay this on top so that it covers your design completely. Gonna put this into the project sheet like so. A little bit of static there, and you'll want to wipe down, make sure there's no dust or anything on your panel. Nothing that can get in between your foil and your design. And it's at 3, so here's the folded edge. I'm gonna feed that in through first. Make sure this is nice and flat. No wrinkles, everything's looking good. And I don't know if it said so, but I'm putting the foil kind of top side. Presumably, maybe I can read this. The heating elements are on top. And so I would want that to be as close as possible. Though it doesn't really say whether you need to actually put it with the foil on the top or not. So, but it does say that you want the hinge side to go through first. Okay, so that's been through. It's kind of toasty. Not hot. It's already cooled down. So Well, look at that. A perfect foiling the first time around. Now, I'm going to save this because there are ways to use this. If you have toner sheet, you can use that and get the most out of your negatives. So how fabulous is that? Okay, pretty darn cool. No overfoiling, no underfoiling. Out of the gates, a couple minutes in, and I've already got a foiled panel, so love that. Okay, next up, let's try something different. And I am gonna foil some of the goodies that I got from Crafty Critta. I just want to have a couple of practice rounds with other designs before I dig into my Crafty Critta things. So here's what I'm going to use. I've got, this is Effortlessly Shimmer paper from Crafty Meraki. This is not as like smooth and glossy as the sample panels are. So curious to see how that does. And I'm gonna cut this in half and foil once through the Minc and then once through the Laminator. And then these I got from Kendra in a mystery card kit that is available to her VIP patrons. And I'm going to do the same thing. I am going to, it feels the same as the Crafty Meraki. I would say there's probably more toner on here. I can almost feel where it's printed, but in terms of that glossiness, it's not glossy, so it'll be interesting to see how these foil. So this, I am presuming, I'm not sure, but Kendra sent it to me cut like this. So what I might do is I might cut maybe 4 inches and that way I have like a 4-inch panel and then a 2-inch panel, assuming this is 6x6, and that way because I'm more likely to use that. I'm not sure if that's going to, is that going to ruin my comparison, folks? Should I don't see why that would ruin it. If instead of doing like 3 exactly in half, 3 inches through the Minc and 3 inches through the Laminator, I'm just thinking about what's going to be usable on a project. I was thinking of doing 4 inches through one machine and 2 inches through another. We'll see. Let's just start with this one because I can cut this one in half. Because this is the beauty of using something that is the Crafty Meraki, which is 8.5 by 6. And so I can cut this to 4 1/4. And it's plenty big for a full background. 2 full backgrounds if I'm making A2 cards. And what I think I'll do is I will use some gold with these leaves. And I'm going to use Decofoil. So while this is nice and hot, what I will do is I will set one aside and foil with my Laminator as a second pass. So we'll do all the Laminator foiling after we do all of the Minc foiling. So let's set aside, this was what they sent, and I'll just pull a new sheet of Decofoil here. Cut off a section that's big enough. And you do want to be careful. So the foil is actually this right here, the silver, and the top here, this has got a plastic liner. So you want to be careful not to scratch it from underneath. It's this top portion has a plastic liner, so not that you want to be rough with it, but that's the edge that's going to be a little bit more forgiving if you have any scratches or anything. Okay, And I'll use the same gold when I send this through my laminator later. And put it like that. I'm gonna say this is the same material. I'm gonna send it through at a 3. Let's just hope that is sufficient. And it will grab it at some point, and then the rollers will take control and do their thing. So I'm gonna save that for round 2 of my test. And then with this, I will, okay, we'll go half and half on this one, just in case it does make a difference. The only thing that I can think would make a difference is that with more surface area, maybe it takes more heat. So if I want to be fair between the Minc and the Laminator, I'll go halvesies. I think with the hearts, maybe I'll go with rainbow. And let's see how this did. So this is Crafty Meraki Effortlessly Shimmer. I've got a little bit of underfoiling right there. Pretty good. Again, I'm gonna save this. Let's see. A couple of places of underfoiling. Right there, right there. Otherwise, just a couple spots here and there, like at the very, very tips of some of the leaves, and that right there, that's probably user error. Not bad. Pretty good. And so let's get our hearts. So again, I'll set one aside for when we do the laminator. So this is Pink and Main. Oh, it's probably because, I mean, the deco foil is exactly 6 inches wide, and these panels are exactly 6 inches. So it could have been that my foil wasn't lined up 100% correctly on that last one. That's why at the very edge, there was a little bit that was underfoiled, and that's probably more to do with it just not being covered. So there's that, and let me go ahead and cut a little bit a panel for when I laminate this. All right, so I have this ready for the laminator test. I'm kind of excited to see if, if my laminator does just as well as the Minc. I might just return this. Amazon's great for making it easy to return things. So I asked around, and everybody I asked said it's really a night and day difference. So I guess we'll see. So on the strength of several recommendations and the fact that there's a sale, I thought, okay, this is now or never kind of time. And what I might do once this goes through is I will do the laminator comparison of these two same panels. And I think then I'll maybe just come back to the Minc and do my crafty critter foiling. Just so that for folks who are most interested in getting the first look, my first opinions, and seeing the side-by-side. Yeah, so not perfect. You can see that in the hearts, if you see like silver bits, that is because it didn't grab all of the foil. So here's what I am going to do. I am going to bump this up to 4. I'm going to bump this up to a 4, and then what I will do is we'll try that again with this panel out of 4, and we'll see how that does. So, because this is definitely not chipboard, and I'm going to cut it exactly in half. Let's see. 3 was lightweight uncoated paper or heavyweight coated paper, and 4 is uncoated cardstock. Well, it doesn't seem coated, and I guess it can be considered a lightweight cardstock. So let's see if this works better. I'm gonna do the same rainbow because maybe, you know, different foils. That's the other thing. Different foils might actually react a little bit differently, and so that could also, like, if I'd used gold, maybe that would have foiled just fine, and it's this rainbow foil that's a little bit different that might require more heat or more pressure. There are a lot of variables involved, so let's try this. All right, so I've got this out of 4, it's green. How'd that go through? And we'll see how that does. Meanwhile, what I'll do is, let me get this cut for my laminator test. Okay, let's see how this did. Oh, I'm nervous. Oh, okay, much better. Okay, much better. See, now when you look at the clear areas, you can kind of see there's a couple specks here and there of silver, but not quite as spotty as the hearts. So if you look at the hearts, you can see how much foil, where it should be totally clear in the hearts, there's so much foil that's left on that carrier sheet. And here you can see there's all those specks of black, whereas here, really nice and solid. So, okay, that's the setting that we need for pink and main. And okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the rocker off. Okay. And we'll let that cool down, and then as that's cooling down, I'll bring on my Amazon laminator. So this is really old at this point. I'm not sure how many years old, but it's actually wide enough to fit an entire 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper through it. So the opening is pretty wide. But when you look at it, interestingly enough, it's not that much bigger than the Minc. Okay, so that's the footprint of my Amazon laminator, and this is the footprint of my Minc machine. So end to end, it's only maybe about an inch and a half bigger, and in terms of the height, it's about the same. And then in terms of this dimension, the depth, it's maybe another inch or inch and a quarter or so. So it's not that much smaller than the Minc. Or the laminator is not that much smaller than the Minc. And this is the small Minc. This is the mini. Okay, so I'll let that cool off to the side. This too has a rocker switch to turn on. Now the rocker switch has, I only have two settings, 3mm or 5mm, and that's in reference to your laminator material, like how thick the plastic is that you're using. And because this isn't really, hasn't been designed for foiling, I just always set it to 5, because 5 means it can go through thicker material, and that's going to basically max out how hot and how much pressure the machine is capable of. So the again, being that it's a laminator, normally what you would do is, you'd have your lamination sheets, and there's a top sheet of plastic and a bottom sheet of plastic, and then whatever you want to laminate and have protected in between plastic, you would put in between, and then you just feed that through. There's no carrier sheet. So for example, it's kind of like this. Imagine if this was like just lamination plastic instead of a carrier sheet. You would put your thing in the middle and just feed it through. And that's how a laminator normally works. Now, because we're foiling and the foil is so thin, and so you don't want it to get caught up in the rollers here, I'm gonna make my own sort of faux carrier sheet out of just copy paper. And that's also one reason to actually put it on its highest temperature, because it's got to make, the heat has to penetrate through that copy paper first before it hits the foil. So so that's a consideration. And I'm just taking a Swiffer cloth while I've got a little bit of downtime here, and I'm just gonna clean the inside of my Minc transfer carrier folder here, just to remove any dust. Because what I am waiting on is, I do need for this light to turn green. So I can even put it like this. So what I'm gonna do is I will have my design ready to go. I did already cut the foil, so let's do this first one. This is the Crafty Meraki panel, effortless shimmer paper with Decafoil gold, and I'm just going to put it between folded piece of copy paper, and I'll run that through this way. when this comes up to temperature and the light turns green. And there it goes. So go ahead and pass this. So what was frustrating me before when I was using the laminator and ultimately ended up getting the glimmer machine was because I wasn't getting consistent foiling, and so I felt that I was wasting the foil sheets because you kind of you can pass this through like 1, 2, 3 times, and I was doing that, but I still wasn't getting 100% coverage, and so it was a lot of time and expense of the product for not great results. But, and you can kind of see how there's some areas that are underfoiled, like if you look at that. And for comparison's sake, here's the other panel. Oh, where did I put my other panel? Okay, so for comparison, this went through the Minc, and you can kind of see there's very few spots. I mean, with the exception of that, which might be a weird bit of dust or something. But the reason why I'm holding this the way I am is because if you just kind of let it settle back, what I then do is I rotate this, let it come up to green, rotate this, and then pass it through. So, I mean, I'm already going to concede that on this pass, the Minc did better. But because, if it can do it in one, that's really the goal. Because you know what? I don't want to be sitting here running something through multiple times. And, but I'm running this through a second time just to see if it can ultimately get as good of coverage of the foil as the Minc. Because for some people, that's the trade-off, and that might be worth it. It costs a fraction of what a Minc costs, but if it means that you've got to spend a little bit of extra time running something through a second, a third time to get the same result, that's a trade-off that might be worth it. Okay, so let's see. See, it's better, but still not 100%. But we got a little bit more to transfer. And so that's the sort of thing that was frustrating me, because if you look overall at these two panels, it's some areas are really nice. Like these look pretty solid here, but then you don't have to scan too far and you start to see a lot of black spots, speckled black spots. And, once this is on a card and it's pushed into the background, maybe that doesn't really matter so much. But the thing is that it's foiling and it's meant to be shiny. It's meant to be seen. And so I want it to be kind of as perfect as possible. And so we give this round to the Minc. Okay, next up is the rainbow foiling of, let's do the stripe panel. Okay, so I have my heart panel. Let's see, where are my stripes? Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I've got my foilable panel. I have my little transfer folder out of copy paper here. And, oh, gotta wait for that. It was green a moment ago. Okay, so I'm gonna pass it through this way first. This was the Minc. Okay, so looks pretty good. Let's see. Nope. Okay, you can see the specks already as I lift. So I'm not going to even lift it more than that. I'm going to give this round to the Minc as well, but let's just pass it through a second time. And I just rotated it and passed it through that time. The second time at a different angle. And sometimes that might help because maybe it just depends on when, you know, how hot the rollers are, because as something's going through, it's going to be, you know, absorbing the heat, and maybe the later parts are a little bit cooler. So what I was often finding myself doing was I wouldn't even check after the first or the second. I would rotate this a third time so that this actually goes through from this end that's coming out now first. Because you can see that light went off because the temperature dropped. And so that means that maybe by the time this was passing through, it wasn't quite as hot as when the other end did. So I'm going to do that and wait for this to come green again and run this through a third time. 2 wasn't enough on the leafy panel that I did in gold. So we'll just, and this is different brand of foilable panel. This is Pink and Main, whereas the other one was Crafty Meraki. So there's some variables, but that's why I chose different things, because it's, you should be able to foil anything. And if the Minc can foil anything, regardless of the brand that printed the foilable or the brand of the actual foil sheets, then I feel, to me at this point of where I'm at, it's worth not having to do this multiple times. If I can get good results on the first time through, I feel like I'm going to be a happy camper, especially since I do videos, you know, and often, you know, I don't want to be sitting here doing this multiple times in a video. Okay, so we lifted that corner before, so I'll lift that again. And it might have done a little bit better, but not super, not 100%. You can kind of see at the edges right through here, down here, all those black specks that you see, that's where the toner did not grab the foil. Whereas look at that. I mean, there are a couple black specks, but they are few and very far between on the Minc, which is on our left, versus the Laminator on the right. And I mean, you can it's really evident along the edges, because look how clean those lines are between the rainbow and the white. Whereas here you see the blacks, you know, kind of splotchiness. So, all right, Minc, you might be staying home with me. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my Laminator off, and I will pick out some things from Crafty Critta. So if you're interested, if you saw that unboxing and you kind of were interested in seeing how that foils up, in particular, I actually want to use their toner sheets too. And so that's why I wanted to practice on a couple of things first, really make sure that I get the hang of the Minc. I'm going to swap out machines because I will use the Minc now that I have it, because I do feel like that's better and more consistent. So I'll pause here, and when I return, we'll do some crafty critter foiling. Okay, so I am back with, this is a crafty critter foilable, and I have some of their toner foil in party pink. And so this is quite a generous, well, it's hard to tell how much of this is the core is actually pretty large. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, I can't foil this whole panel because my carrier sheet is not large enough. So what I'm gonna have to do is cut this down. And that's perfectly okay because I'm most likely going to have this be a A2 card. So this is about 8 1/4. So I'm gonna cut this to 4 1/8, roughly in half. And so now it'll fit within my carrier sheet. That's a factor of this being the mini Minc. If you had the large Minc machine, you would not have that limitation. And I don't love the fact that this is such a big sticker. It's okay if you need to scratch against this. I wouldn't recommend being so aggressive, but this is the side that has the plastic carrier. So, wow, it's very, very sticky. Yeah, I'm not, I'll be honest, not a fan of how large this label is and how sticky it is. Just because I don't like having to scratch at this. Even though it's on the plastic side, it is, if you're super aggressive with your scratches, it can actually impact your foil on the other end of things. And then I don't like having to do this, but I might actually just use my scissors and cut through this. Because this is just, or you could use a craft knife. I mean, this is definitely gonna scratch up the foil a bit. It's on the very, very edge, so it's not gonna lose a ton of foil, but that is very sticky. Okay. All right, so we have that. Sometimes having something like an extra something is that might actually impact the foiling. So because this panel is so pretty, it seems wasteful, but I'm actually just gonna cut this off because that's still plenty to use for smaller, foiled sentiments or something like that. I'm not gonna toss it. I'm just going to not use it on these panels. Only because sometimes when you have an extra layer of something, with hot foiling anyhow, it might actually kind of impact the end result. So, and what I want to do is be able to foil this, and then I want to be able to use the leftover and use the toner sheet and get the reverse, so that we use our entire sheet of foil here. Okay. So that has come up to temperature. And I don't have one of those. Actually, I might have. I don't have like one of those big fan brushes, but I'll go ahead and brush this because I took it out of the plastic a while ago. And everything's nice and covered. I'll put this in between like that. And then we'll go ahead and pass this through. And I set this to 4 because 4 seemed like it worked really well with the pink and mane. Crafty Meraki went through just fine on 3, but, and I'll be honest, I don't know, maybe somebody who's watching this can leave a comment if you know if what would happen if you chose a setting that was too high. You know, could that scorch anything? Could it harm anything? Or should I just be using 5 for everything, just to be on the safe side? Okay, so let's see. A little toasty coming out. All right, so let's see. Look at that. Gorgeous. There are some spots that are underfoiled. So you can see the black there. There's a little bit of black here, a little bit of black there, a little bit there. Surprising. Okay, so I do have the other panel, so I can still give that a shot and run the other panel through. But I'm just gonna move this to 5 and let's see how it does out of 5. Because after this, I want to actually foil this, which is a lot more foil that needs to get transferred. And so if this isn't successful out of 4, I don't think foiling the negative will be successful out of 4 either. So let's try this out of 5 and see how that does before I foil the negative using the toner sheet from Crafty Critta, because I don't want to waste that toner sheet, especially since I plan to use the white, and I don't know that I've seen white toner sheet at anywhere else really. My blade must be really dull. I think it's time to change this. So it does warm up pretty fast, so I like that. Okay, so then let's get this. And I did dust it, that it wasn't underfoiled because there was dust somewhere. There's that. Get this into the folder. And okay, so now this is going Crafty Critta foil onto a Crafty Critta foilable panel, and at setting number 5. So while that's going through, the thing that I want to prepare next is this, which is their toner sheet, and this is a toner sheet in white, which I think is cool. So when this foils, it's gonna look like that, which I think is gonna be gorgeous. But I do also need to trim this down. 4 1/8. Okay. Pretty toasty. Let that cool a little bit. And, well, that one had some underfoiling. If this one's better, I want to use this one. Although I might end up using them both. Okay. All right, let's see. Nope. Oh my gosh. Look. That's surprising. Okay. So if you look right here, even tilting it, it stays black. This didn't foil at all. There's a spot, a line there. And it's weird because it's like, you know, some, like a stretch. It's this whole stretch. Like right through there. I mean, this seems to have done better. No, see, this has maybe a line right through there. Not like a straight line, but it's not splotchy. So it's weird that it's like almost certain bands, you know, because it's not like just a little spot here or there at the edge. Like if you look at this, like there's like a line right across there where it hasn't foiled. Oh, that's very, very unusual. It makes me wonder if, like here, there's almost like a little bubble right there that didn't transfer. Yeah, this is unusual, and I'm not. Somebody will have to tell me in the comments what I'm doing wrong, because yeah, it just looks like there's weird areas that have not transferred. I almost feel like this did not do as well at 5. So I'm gonna go back to 3 actually, because 5 was for chipboard, which means chipboard is thicker than this. So my guess is that there wasn't enough pressure. So when I was at 4, I should have gone down to 3, I think, rather than up to 5. And let's test that out. So I have this, and I will, before I do the negative, let's foil this. I'll foil it with the winter green. And my guess is that 3 might be the correct setting. Oh, this is way better than the pink one. See, this is what I was expecting. Okay, so I don't quite need a ton of this. So about there looks like all I really need. That's plenty. Okay, I have high hopes that this is going to be the correct setting. And my hope is that you kind of have to trial and error, and then once you find a setting for a particular combination of products or a particular paper, because maybe it matters more the thickness of the paper than the foil, maybe then you're good to go once you've got that figured out. So wipe that for dust. Set this on here. Okay, so this is ready whenever that's ready. so let's see how this does. Because it is a function of heat, but also of pressure as well. So at 5, maybe there wasn't enough pressure because 5 is really meant for chipboard, which is thicker. I was thinking more just in terms of the amount of heat, but I neglected the fact that there's a pressure element to this too. So let's see. So you can see that like, even though pressure was applied to this whole area evenly, the foil didn't transfer to anywhere that there isn't the printed image. Whereas hot foil, if you were to apply equal pressure, it would actually adhere to everything. Oh, look at that. That was the key. 3 is the setting that we need. So that is 100%. Okay, awesome. Very, very awesome. This is gorgeous. I might use this on a negative as well. So just a preview, if I were to foil this onto like a white, it would basically look like that, except the foil would be stuck to the panel. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that first pink sheet because that did do better. And where it's not 100%, it's okay. I'll just cover it with a sentiment or something. So let's see this in action. So let's make sure that's nice and smoothed out. Do want to make sure that the panel is fully under the carrier. All right. This, I think, is going to be so cool. So what the toner sheet does for you is it allows you to do negative foiling. So we've used that bit of foil once already to get this panel. Maybe it was this panel actually. Yeah, this was the first panel. And so when we run this through, that entire white panel deceptively is not just a white panel, it's actually white toner. And so the beauty of it, it does look like it's foiled really well. The beauty of this is that now we can pull this off and the foil has actually stayed on. Oh, this is really interesting. How cool. I would recommend peeling this off while it's nice and warm because, so here's what happened. The white here, that's actually, oh my gosh, this is so neat. The white is actually the toner, which got melted, right? It melted and it actually stuck to this carrier sheet. So now look, I have basically a clear acetate with a design of snowflakes. So I can actually, this is so neato. Look at how many uses I'm going to be able to get out of this. So imagine I had some color cardstock. So now I can put a bit of this clear acetate with the white snowflakes over top of it and just find a way to glue it down. Or maybe I can use this for a shaker. Oh my gosh, I can use this for a shaker because it doesn't, you know, my shaker acetate, it's thicker than this carrier sheet, but it doesn't really need to be that thick. And that would be really fun. So this could be your like clear window through a shaker. I was more excited about that than this, which foiled beautifully. So you can see it's the reverse of the first time through. And so you get that gorgeous foil on the background, and the white of the original toner sheet is the actual design. And what is neat about this is that it basically makes use of your entire foil sheet. So you can see I've used just about all of it. There's just like the little bit of excess hanging around the edges. And then bonus, I get this, which is now a little printed acetate sheet almost. So I think that's really cool. So here's the same. This is a toner sheet that's in gold, and I don't know that this wintergreen looks good on the gold. I'll be honest. So what I'm gonna do is I am just going to do this onto the this is actually my foiled panel. Whoa. This is my toner sheet. So you do want to make sure that you're using the right product. Okay, there we go. So it'll look a little something like this. And I'll go ahead and set this through. So cool. And when this is done running through, I'm just going to like a band-aid, just tear it off fast. It was giving me some resistance as I was pulling it off, which is unusual because usually this, comes off very cleanly. But the resistance is just because the toner it's kind of still warm, a little sticky still. So if I just tear it off quickly, I feel like hopefully it doesn't disrupt the design too much, and then I get that nice printed acetate. Because towards the end where it started to cool, you can kind of see the design wasn't coming off very well. Okay, oh, look at that. Oops. Well, nobody told me that would happen, but I guess I should have known. All right, so there's that. I mean, you can see it like really melted. I mean, I might have. That's so cool. So I don't know if I just ruined my thing here, but because now this is cool. But what I could try to do is just in some warm water, see if I can reactivate that, warm it up again. Or what I'll try to do, see if it'll come off onto some just plain paper. Because it'll melt back. And let's see if it attaches itself to copy paper. If not, maybe I'll have to buy another transfer folder. But at least we're done with our foiling session. I just don't want that toner to transfer onto my next project, so if it stains and it doesn't transfer, then I'm kind of okay with it being there. And if this doesn't actually come off, then leave me comments if you know how to fix this. Or yeah, that didn't come off. A little bit of it transferred, but not really. Yeah, so if you know how to fix this that I just did, let me know in the comments. What are my first thoughts? I like the Minc. It does work a lot more consistently, a lot better than my Laminator does. It has more settings. It might take, which means maybe a little bit more trial and error in terms of finding the right settings. I might have just sort of, ruined my ruined my transfer, but what I'll do is when I use this again, I'll just have this be on the bottom or the back of my panel and not the front. But good to know. Hopefully that saves you from making the same mistake. If you're using toner sheets, just make sure that your toner sheet is completely covered with something so that that toner doesn't melt onto your plastic carrier sheet. All in all, I'm happy with the Minc. I still think it's kind of spendy, but the thing is that it works. So it's you know, it's everybody's judgment as to whether, you know, the cost justifies you know, the how effective it is, how reliable it is. We'll see over time as I use it long term how reliable it is, but it certainly does foil you know, in a single pass very, very beautifully. And so really happy with the results. And it's, once you get the right settings, it is pretty darn perfect, and with just one pass through at that. So I'm happy with it, and I'll be using it more. And now that I've you know, learned how to use it a little bit better, I am excited to start to show it in more videos too. And I'll probably sit and continue to do a little bit more foiling of some Crafty Critta stuff, because I'll have some KCC videos featuring their products, and some other videos, and maybe just sharing to my socials, because they sent so much, and so I'm really excited to dig in. Thanks for checking out this first look. I will come back after I've had some time to use it, and I will kind of give my final concluding thoughts on it. And for now, though, I'm definitely going to keep it, because I feel like it's working beautifully. It solves all of the frustrations that I had with my laminator, and it's nice to just see for myself side by side how it compares. And it is hands down, like the laminator will get you maybe 95%. But if you are the type of crafter that you don't want any speck of that toner to still be showing, then it feels like this is worth it for that level of quality. But if you know that you're just foiling things that you're going to use maybe on backgrounds as opposed to sentiments, and a speck of toner here and there isn't going to be that big of a deal, then the laminator, for the price, it does remarkably well. So it really just depends on you know, how you're going to be using your foiling. But I do have some sentiments I want to use, so I want to make sure that these foil up beautifully, because they are going to be more of a focal image. So thanks for catching this video, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye. Okay, one last thing. I started to foil up some sentiments, and also I pulled out the gold toner sheet. And one thing that I want to caution, if you remember when I did these on the white, I did what in sort of heat transfer vinyl projects you would consider a hot peel. So before it has cooled down, I peeled off the carrier sheet. Don't do that with your gold, because you need for the gold toner to actually re-solidify. Otherwise, you're going to peel it off of the printed cardstock. So the reason why it worked okay with white is because it's white toner on white cardstock. So if the toner lifts, not the end of the world, it's still white underneath. So here's what I mean. I just for kicks, I foiled gold on top of gold. So this is gold deca foil on top of the gold toner sheet from Crafty Critta, and I let it cool down completely. And so you can see clean carrier sheet, and that's what you want when you're working with anything other than white. And even if you're working with white and you just don't want that to lift, that's the other thing too. Maybe if I had not peeled it off right away from my plastic carrier sheet, it would have actually, you know, stayed stuck to my paper. But I do want to actually give an update on that. So what I've been doing is I just have a bit of copy paper right over this bit. It may or it may not matter at all. I don't think it's actually going to transfer onto anything, but this will prevent it from doing so if it should happen to, you know, melt enough. But I've been putting that at the bottom and my project on top. And if the copy paper, since it's really thin, it's not going to impact too much. And if anything, it just adds a little bit of extra pressure, which hopefully just helps to even further kind of guarantee a nice solid foiling. But here you can see this was one of these Decofoil pieces left over. And so I foiled that onto, this is that bit of toner sheet. So the gold toner, it's a little bit matte. And so it has the fact that the Decofoil, which is more shiny, more of a mirror gold, is shiny. And then the leaves, which is where the gaps are and where the gold toner is coming through, it's more matte. So kind of neat, a little bit of a gold on gold look. I thought that was kind of fun to experiment with. So wanted to just come back and update you all. If you're using toner sheets, that's the more correct way of using it. But I'm still loving the hot peel action and getting these almost like a printed acetate. So for the white, I'm still going to do that. But for everything else, I'm going to do a cold peel and let it cool down completely. Okay, so I think that is really going to be the end of this video. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.